This video is going to be filmed on my phone because I couldn't care less. If you have SoftRAID, please watch this entire video. So, I produce video. I'm basically a one-man video production company, I guess, organization. I just do I do AV things, and part of that is a hell of a lot of storage. That's a 112 terabyte RAID. And you probably don't even have 1 terabyte in your computer. And that box down there has 112 of them. And I have a 50 terabyte NAS that's on the other side of that. But that's different. Right now we're going to talk about the RAID enclosure, which is from OWC. Now, most computers, they don't know how to interface with special RAID configurations and such. They just don't know how to do it because they don't need to. But to run that RAID enclosure that you saw down there, there's an application you have to buy and install called SoftRAID, SoftRAID, which is basically a software RAID configuration utility slash kind of in between the box and the machine itself. And well, you can get some pretty good capacity on those things. But one of the problems that I ran into just recently, that I just worked down to the SoftRAID utility, was, well, I store everything on, naturally I store everything on my SoftRAID box because it's 112 terabytes, and the Mac Mini doesn't even, has half of one of those. It has half of a terabyte. So obviously I'm going to store as much stuff as I can on the RAID enclosure. The problem with that is, well, the SoftRAID utility runs in the background as a background application. But if you restart your Mac, or whatever computer you're on, I think, but we're going to focus on Macs. If you restart your Mac, the drive won't mount immediately after restart. It takes a couple seconds. But in these few seconds, your desktop wallpaper will come onto the screen. It will be painted over the background. Multiple things get configured, certain applications start up, and if any of these things happen before that drive is mounted, and if any of the resources that those applications or actions need to load are stored on that drive that isn't mounted yet, well, that's not going to work. The application will crash or just not load, or it'll error, it'll be misconfigured, or something like that. For me, my desktop wallpaper just didn't appear at all. And I had no idea why, because it was still, obviously, it was configured in settings to be that wallpaper, but that's not what the wallpaper was on the desktop. And if I screw around with some of the options in settings, well, it would reappear. But without it, without messing with some of the options, it just stayed the default macOS wallpaper. And every time I would reset it to that image and I restarted my Mac, it would change back to the default wallpaper for macOS, which is like mountains or something, which is obviously not what I want. And that's because my wallpaper was stored on that external RAID drive that isn't mounted before everything is populated on the screen, before the desktop loads. Therefore, it's replaced by the default wallpaper. I can see why they did that, but it's still not what I want. So I decided, well, okay, that's probably the problem. So I'm going to move the picture off of that RAID box onto the internal storage that's always mounted, because that's what it's booting off of. And I name it Do Not Move, so I don't move it again due to stupidity. And I set my desktop wallpaper to that particular file. I restart, and it works perfectly the first time. I fixed this issue, and if you have any other applications that are not running funny and you have SoftRAID, make sure that none of their resources are loading off of, or are trying to load, or are even stored on a SoftRAID drive, because that is probably the problem. So yeah, if you want more just random... Actually, this is really only a one-time thing. I'm probably not going to make more videos like this unless I come across more bugs that don't seem to have a great way of getting solved without a lot of trial and error. Like, this has been an issue for a couple weeks, ever since the power went off in my office, and my computer restarted from that. That's when this issue started. I must have moved the picture onto the RAID, at least like right before that. So that issue started then, and that's why that issue started then. So yeah, move everything, all of your startup stuff, store it on your main drive. Don't store it on an external drive, because that won't be mounted when you restart. Thanks for watching.